Days a week. Long weeks, they're 5 days. All right. Is everybody on?
This is Dave Murdoch. I'm on.
Hello, Dave. Let me check with the Planning Commission. Andy, are you there?
Yep.
Adam?
Yep.
Heather? Joy?
I'm here.
Hi, Joy. Brody?
What?
Brody, are you back on? I'm guessing that's no. Andrea, are you on?
I'm here.
Okay, so we're just waiting for Brody, it looks like. Yeah. What we'll do is we'll start the Planning Commission and just verify that Brody's on. We do have a full quorum with Andy, Adam, Heather, Joy, Brody, and Andrea. But we'll verify Brody's back on after we do the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll start the Thursday, July 16th, 2020, regular Planning Commission meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance offered by Wendy here at the City Building.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Wendy. And then just to verify, Brody, are you back on yet? So it does say he's on.
Is he being muted?
No, he's not muted right now. Maybe he just stepped away for a second. Oh, so he's self-muted. Brody, will you check to see if you're self-muted?
Yeah, sir, I'm self-muted.
All right, so we got everybody here. So we do have a full quorum. Do we have any conflicts of interest with any of the items tonight?
No, I don't.
All right. Seeing none, then we'll look at an approval of minutes for the May 21st, 2020 and June 4th, 2020 Planning Commission meetings. We'll look for a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, motion by Heather. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. I couldn't tell if I heard everybody, but any opposed? Seeing none, then we'll move on to administrative items. And that was obviously approval for the minutes for May 21st and June 4th. All in favor. And item 3.1, which is a request for a conditional use permit for the Wide Hollow Trailhead. And we'll turn over to city staff.
Thank you. So I will introduce this item, and as mentioned in the work meeting, Heather Shagrud, our landscape architect, is here to provide a little additional information and answer questions of the commission. Jonathan Bowers, our city engineer, is also on the call, and I think also our Parks Department Director, Anthony, is with us as well. As mentioned, this is a conditional use. You can see on this map the 11-acre site that is highlighted in red. The zone is FR1, Forestry Recreation, and this is a city application for a White Hollow trailhead. We did have 2 neighborhood meetings on this project. We included a number of comments that we received on this project in your packet. The red text were comments in response from our staff on those different issues. We've also provided to the commission the traffic impact study on this project for your review. This is the image that was included in your packet of the project showing the grading of the site and the access. Of course, the kind of that black cul-de-sac area is the access and turnaround, the vehicle access and turnaround. You can see the parking stalls on both sides of the access point. The red is areas that would need to be cut or removed, and the blue contour lines are areas of fill. Now, this afternoon, I did receive just a little bit more information from Heidi, our landscape architect. This was produced by Bo and Collins, our consultant on this project. So we have, you can see the landscaping, a little more detail of like where the restrooms will be in the future, and then also an additional amenity, this additional trail. Few photographs that were provided to the commissioners in your packet of the existing conditions of the site. You can see our graffiti rock that is much beloved in our community. This next image is looking kind of more northerly across the valley.
Hey, Michael, do you mind clarifying on one thing? You just shared a picture, and it showed 58 stalls or parking spaces, and in our proposal, it said 66. Will you just verify that the picture you just shared will be a change in how many parking spots?
Let me, yes, I'll come back to that. We'll have that as a reference. I'm sure Heidi can address that for you. I think there's just this one more photograph. Again, the site looking to the west. I wanted to just have as a point of reference, again, this is a conditional use. These are the approval standards from the actual city code. I have these for your reference. If you need to, in making a motion, or if you have any questions or concerns, I kind of underlined the key issues that we're trying to achieve with the conditional use. We want to make sure that the use is suitable to the specific property and the proposed use that is in harmony with existing uses around the facility, the vicinity. We're obviously working to make sure that the use is not injurious or has a potential negative impact on other uses. And those impacts can be economic, it can be aesthetic. There's also references here to making sure we have adequate utilities, that the use doesn't create any offensive odors or emissions or noise. And then we're trying to work to minimizing those adverse effects. Oftentimes there are negative impacts that are associated with these uses. And the law only requires that we work to mitigate them, which does not mean to eliminate those uses. To mitigate just means that we are reducing them. We're finding methods or tools that are necessary in order to kind of modify those impacts and reduce them. And ultimately, of course, we're working to make sure that we're preserving the health, safety, and welfare of the city. That's the whole point of these ordinances, to make sure we're achieving that. So I just wanted to have that on record, that is the goals and the objectives of these conditional use standards. Now let's go back to the image, the updated image that Commissioner Berber had referenced. And if you would like, we could have Heather jump in and just kind of talk about the updates in this image and address that for the commission.
Thank you.
This is Heidi. Yes, good evening. Mike, I think you did a good job.
Except for the fact you Heather, I apologize.
That's okay. I think you did a good job introducing this project. On this site plan, first off, I just want to mention, we had 2 neighborhood meetings. And in the first neighborhood meeting, the residents that attended that meeting had a lot of concerns that we addressed and changed the site plan quite significantly to get to this site plan. And some of their concerns were having the parking too close to the residents on the south Some of their concerns were traffic and safety. And so another of their concern was this was a very, the initial concept had very tall walls. And so it was very heavy-handed approach into the landscape, into this mountainside. And so with this approach, oh, and they also wanted to see the traffic study. So we conducted that traffic study, and it did come back suggesting that during peak hours, we would need to have 66, I think it actually said 65 stalls, but either way, 66 or 65. In this instance, in this image that you see, we do want to hit that 66 stall number. Our vision for this trailhead is not to be paved, and it's not to draw individual marcated lines for parking. It's not to delineate where you should park. So a person could come in and we could accommodate angular parking, which would increase from this number that you do see here, which is 58. Or we could paint them to dictate that. We could also, well, I don't know if we could or not. But anyway, we could do the angular parking, which would increase our stall count there. As you can see on this site plan, we have increased our plant material, which was a request from the neighborhood. We have connected to the north the East Ridge development, and there's a trail running along that western border of the trailhead. This particular concept does a really good job of balancing the site, which, so the red is the cut and the blue is the fill, as was explained earlier. And when you can balance the site, it's more economical for one, so you don't have to haul all of that away. You can use it on the other end. What you cut, you can use in your fill. But it also makes it so it's less heavy-handed of a design. I think that this design will be really accommodating to the mountain and less disturbance of the mountain.
Heidi, what's that yellow line that's cutting down across the cutbacks?
So the yellow line is what we're calling a challenge staircase. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but let's see, I forgot what it's called, but somewhere in Colorado, there's a challenge staircase that's like 2,000 steps tall, and it used to be an old mining trail, and it's pretty popular. They've since, I believe in Castle Rock, Colorado, done a mini challenge staircase, and it's incredibly popular. And so our thought here was we could have a challenge staircase that could be an amenity we could add to this, that this particular mount, I mean, it's a mountain, but it's a little mound. It really lends itself to that amenity, and I think it would be really great. It was quite well received by the neighbors that came to both of our community meetings. They were both real excited about it, and in fact, some of them said, "Please build that challenge staircase before you put in the restroom. Like, I can't wait to get climbing on it." So that was real well received as an amenity for this location.
I have a question. This might be for the planning staff. This is Brody. Do people currently use this trail with horses? Is that why they don't want to, I guess, do angular parking? Just curious feedback there.
I haven't seen anyone with a horse up there.
Yeah, I think this is more for mountain biking. Yeah, I think this is more for mountain biking.
Okay.
And then hiking. Is that correct?
Hiking and mountain biking. Yeah, I was just concerned. I know, traffic, and if there was trailers coming in with horses, it looks pretty steep, so I don't see that being the case, but wanted to ask.
Are there any questions from the Planning Commission for city staff or Heidi? And we appreciate you being here, Heidi.
Yeah, I have a question. So it says a split rail wood fence. Are wood fences allowed in our ordinance?
Yep.
This is Heidi. I don't think wood fences are allowed. I think that our designer with Bone and Collins may have just misunderstood our instruction when I asked her to put a split rail fence there. But it's just our intention that we have something there marking that boundary line. And we would certainly probably go with the split vinyl white fence that we usually do.
Okay. That sounds good. My concern with that house right there is that if we have a car, I mean, it's a complete drop off. If someone drove over that little part right there, they would be right in their kitchen, like right there. So I'm just concerned about how we're going to make that safe for them in those homes right bordering. I'm wondering if there's like a barrier, or if there's going to be something where if someone was accidentally to put it into drive instead of reverse or something, if there's something that would safely keep that there. I don't know.
This is Heidi again. We had discussed either a guardrail that would go on that western edge, or boulders that could be placed on that western edge to prevent something like that happening. In fact, when we had our neighborhood meeting, the resident who lives in that home said on several occasions she has helped people out of the lot to the north of her. So it is something that does happen, and certainly something we want to prevent from happening if we can. So it's a great point.
So for me, I'm trying to justify how we could have that many parking spots for a trailhead. I do a lot of hiking, and I just can't understand 66 parking stalls. Even looking at the traffic impact study, I can't justify it.
And I'm actually a little bit opposite, Heather, on this, because I think what's going to happen, because it is a gravel road, is if we provide the parking stalls, it's going to make it a safer environment than them just trying to park up there. Because I think they're just going to spread down the road and make it more dangerous, because I think it has to be provided, especially with the amount of outdoor activity that our community does.
I would agree. I was going to bring up the same point. Doing angular parking would be my preference, so that it's safer for people pulling in and out and flipping around.
Yeah, you look at what's going on up Yellow Fork and stuff too. That parking's always full. So I agree, Chris. It's gonna attract a lot of people
over there. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Because I think it'd be much worse if we didn't provide enough parking and we have them coming from the neighborhoods and cutting through and trying to find different places to park to actually walk up there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we could have an overflow parking over on 6600 West, rather than providing so many parking stalls. I know that in our general plan, when we were reading over the feedback, Harriman wants to keep it for Harriman. And so I think that that's something that we also might want to consider, that, you know, our residents are already having issues with Black Ridge where they don't want to share. And I think that, you know, we're providing it, but is that what do we really want this much parking?
I think just with the population of Harriman and the growing population we have in this area, it's going to be used. So I think it'd be a disservice, at least in my opinion, to not provide this much.
Yeah,
I agree. You're going to have parking going down White Hollow Drive and whatnot. So if you don't have enough parking now, you've got issues in the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I think we're always trying to put more parking everywhere, and I think this is a great opportunity to take advantage of putting as much as we can. So I actually support it. I just don't really like the ugly rock.
Which maybe the Planning Commission should share some of their thoughts on the rock as well, just for parks.
So I'm only concerned that if, as you've probably seen, there's more graffiti all up through that area. I'm concerned that the city, if they don't get rid of the rock or reduce the rock, we will get more graffiti in that whole area in the facilities.
And-
I have a hard time imagining that people, when they're spray painting and doing that, are some are willing to go and add more, is all I'm trying to say. And I would hate to have a brand new pavilion and park get tagged. So I personally don't think it should be there. I think we should cover it with the.
And I will tell you, Heidi, in our work meeting, it was very split down the middle on this. Some said, let's keep it, and others, just like Adam said, were opposed to it for fear of more graffiti going on throughout that area. So
And I do like the big rock. I just have been in that area and seen how much the other rocks are getting tagged, and I'm concerned that that will end up all through here. Like your parking diversion rocks for the house to the west. I worry that those will be tagged.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some cool stuff, where cities have done a request for proposal and had an artist, make it into an art piece. I think there's options there besides just burying it, because I do think it's a nice feature. But I do kind of share the same concern as Adam, that if you're going up there with spray paint and there's other stuff to spray paint, and it's hard to tell a teenager, don't go spray paint the other thing you want to. But
well, and unfortunately, a lot of the graffiti and stuff up there is not very appropriate, kind of older and whatnot. So there's a way you can manage that, but you can't. So I think you just get rid of that attraction personally. So.
All right. Any other
idea, bro? You have some kind of art, turning it into more of an art feature. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I like that, Adam.
I know throughout Iowa, they call them spirit rocks, and they paint huge giant rocks throughout those small cities in the middle of their towns. And so there may be some options there which would make it unique and hopefully preserve the feel of what it is, but make it into something different.
And maybe reduce profanity on the sides of it.
So that might be something that you guys in parks can look into and see. So, but let's move on to just if there's no other questions directly related to this, look for a motion. If there's more questions, go ahead.
I had a quick question. Sorry.
Sure.
So my question, well, it was more of a comment, was related to the security camera that was proposed. And I was just wondering the location of that, and then if we have cameras in our other parks, or is it more our parks and trailheads, or is it more the newer parks that have those?
That is a great question. So I'll explain on this plan that you're looking at on your screen now, we have two security, we're calling them on this plan surveillance cameras. And there's one at the top of the cul-de-sac turnaround. That's that red circle there. And then there's another one that's attached to the restroom. And it's down, yep, right there. That's right. And so those are the two surveillance cameras we have. That was something that the neighbors in this area were really concerned with providing a parking area more defined than what's up there now, is it would bring more negative behavior up there. And so they were very keen on having those surveillance cameras. Is Anthony still on? I'm not
Heidi,
certain. If
Heidi,
you want to press the second.
Yeah, we do have, we probably have 3 other parks that I can think of off the top of my head that currently have security cameras in them. Unfortunately, we haven't found that they have been particularly successful at deterring or mitigating any sort of vandalism or damage at these parks, unfortunately. But yes, there are the skate park, Crane Park, and I believe the Cove has security cameras at them.
Okay, that was my question about the skate park, because I know that we've had vandalism there quite a bit. So thank you.
So question, do you guys post signs with those? Because I know sometimes the signs detour people more than anything. It goes back to that story that if you put an ADT sign in your front yard, you don't need to put an alarm on your house.
Yes, that is in our policy. We do have to sign it if there's a camera there.
Okay, so we do put signs as well. Okay.
So I wanted to comment on some of the traffic problems that some of the residents brought up, and I just wanted to maybe Jonathan can get on and talk about what their plan is and what we kind of talked about in our work meeting, how they plan to monitor that.
Yeah, this is Jonathan. Just jumping in. So what we had discussed, and I think it's a good question. So we do anticipate additional volume and traffic in this area as a result of this amenity. What we plan to do and want to do is we have a traffic committee meeting next week that we plan to include this site plan, also include the comments, include the traffic impact study that's been included, and discuss appropriate mitigation measures for this amenity, and it's likely going to affect White Hollow Drive, right? And so what we intend to do is implement all recommendations provided by the traffic committee as part of this project. I don't necessarily know off the top of my head what those implementations might be. A lot of things that have been brought up have been, children at play, taking a look at the speed sign that's up there. There's in the work session, chicanes were discussed. So anyway, there's mitigation measures that will be brought up, and then once recommended by the traffic committee, we intend to install them as part of this project.
Thank you. And then I have another question. Does Harriman have a fire hazard mitigation plan?
You know what? That's a good question, Heather. I do not know that off the top of my head. There is, well, I would have to get back with you on that 100%. So I apologize. I can't answer that right off the top right now.
Okay. Michael, do you know if we have anything in place as far as planning goes for fire mitigation?
I don't know that either.
Okay. So one of the other comments that was made from the residents, which I really liked, was just setting hours that this parking would be available. Have you guys thought about having certain hours for parking and how you would manage that?
That is a really good question. Typically, most of our parks are a dawn to dusk facility. And so that was our anticipation of what we would do with this one. You'll notice there isn't any lighting, so that we don't anticipate keeping it lit after dark or before dawn to accommodate those users. We had discussed a gate, and the predominant opinion was no gate, because we didn't want to dictate when someone might want to wake up real early and go for a jog up the trail, or, oh, I stayed out on my trail way longer and now I'm locked in.
Yeah.
It's just not something we do with the rest of our facilities throughout the city. If Anthony wants to chime something different, but that's my recollection of that conversation.
That seems accurate. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Sorry, Anthony. I was just going to add to that. One of the we actually spoke at length with one of the residents that brought this up, and also one of the things that we fear and one of the intentions is that we want to provide parking and get parking off of White Hollow Drive. A lot of the ridership we anticipate being super early or super late, and what we don't want to have is people parking on White Hollow Drive as a result of the unintended result of a gate.
Right.
I was just going to add that is kind of one of the big complaints about Blackbird Reservoir as a trailhead, that we do have a gate there to keep people out after hours, but it that also doubles as probably our main trailhead, our most popular trailhead, and we close those gates around 9 or 10 at night, and don't typically get up there to open them until 7:30ish in the morning. and we have a lot of users who want to get in there a lot earlier than 7:30, so they end up parking on the street in the road and hiking in or biking in from off the street. So yeah, that's one of the reasons we are kind of shying away from putting a gate in this area.
And
those are all
I'm in
valid.
agreement. I'm in agreement with no gate, at least in my opinion.
So am I. So am I.
I have a question about around the restroom. Is that going to be lit? Is there going to be lighting around it, like the other restrooms at parks?
Yes, this is Heidi again. We had anticipated that there might be a light on the restroom. We have a new system that we're trying in the parks where the park restrooms, they open and lock automatically at certain times. And that's something we certainly could look at using here as well. What we don't want to do is leave, I don't know, but we had talked about, yes, having a light just at the restroom. I think it says that on the plan. It's really tiny, but I believe it says camera and light. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just kind of saw that as a safety, just for safety purposes, having the light there.
And another thought just that could be looked at is, because I don't want to see a gate, but to have a sign that says obviously the hours that we're open dawn to dusk. But then also, I don't know if it's worth putting subject to be ticketed if you're not during those hours, because I could see it probably being the easiest way to enforce it is to give them a ticket if they're there at midnight or 1 a.m. And so I'm not as worried if somebody's getting off the trail later, but I do foresee it not being gated, seeing some teenagers coming up there at night too, in the middle of the night. That may be worrisome.
Yeah, so maybe we just need increased patrol or something when this is put into place.
And it'd probably just be a drive here or there.
11
So.
5 a.m. or something. I don't know.
Well, I think you just put the hours, and you could be potentially ticketed if you're there not during those hours. Because at the same time, I hope our police force, and I believe so, if they see a car that's there and it's parked a little bit later and looks like it's a hiker out, then they know they may need to contact somebody to make sure they're safe. So.
Chris, this is Chase. We do have that in our general park ordinance that allows the officers to enforce this. What we've been doing lately with, for example, the pump track is allowing additional enforcement in those areas, and that's something we can consider here as well.
I think it's probably something we should.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Because I don't want to see a gate, but at the same time, if it's open, then you always have the concern of those that are going during the middle of the night. And so I think it would be something that would be worthwhile to consider, Chase. Are there any other items? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So I apologize. I was trying to chime in when somebody asked about the wildfire protection plan, and I was just having some technical difficulties here. But we do participate with UFA, and we do have what's called a community wildfire protection plan that we have put together with them. So I don't know if there were specific questions on that. I don't know if I have answers for you, but I do know that we participate with UFA on that and do have a plan in place.
Okay, could you?
And I recall too that we also have an incident response plan that our director of operations, Monty Johnson, manages for us. So we do have emergency procedures put in place for when those incidents do occur.
That sounds good. I would like to see both of those.
Yeah, I'm sure that's something that we could provide you with.
Thank you.
Hey, Chair, this is Adam. I'm ready to make a motion whenever you're ready.
All right. If there's no other questions,
Adam,
go ahead.
Just have a question about. I know we talked about angular parking. If you're going to make a motion, I think that would be beneficial to have it striped off for parking. So.
Well, Brody, I think they said they were not going to stripe off the parking at all. Is that correct, Heidi?
It's not paved, so it'd be very hard to do that. It wouldn't
Yeah,
last.
yeah. So it's just going to be parking along, and which I think naturally most individuals are going to go at an angle anyway.
Okay. Okay, I'm good then.
Okay, we are ready for a motion at this time. Then
I'd like to make a motion to approve item. I'm sorry, I'm in
Three-
full screen. Is it 3.1?
3.1.
3.1 with staff's recommendation.
Motion by Adam.
I'll second.
A second by Heather. That was Heather, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll call for a vote. Andrea,
Yes.
Brody,
Yes.
Joy,
Yes.
Heather,
Yes.
Adam,
Yes.
and Andy.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 3.2, which is the request for a conditional use permit for a pump track located on the Midas Creek Trail corridor. And we'll turn it to city staff.
Okay, just trying to get this set up. Apologize. There we go. So the approximate address of this project is 5900 West, 122nd South. The zone is R110, and just like the previous application, public park is a conditional use in this zone. Again, the city is the applicant on this project, and our Heidi and Jonathan Bowers and others will be able to speak to you on some of the details of this project. Again, we did have a neighborhood meeting on this on June 29th. And this is something that's certainly generating some excitement in our community. Aerial view of this property is just east of Mustang Trail Way, which is also Pioneer Street and 6000 West. So it's just north or just near the Midas Creek. This is a prefabricated track. And as was mentioned in the work session, it appears that it's only about 5 feet wide. Is that correct, Heidi?
Yeah, I think it's 4 feet, but yeah.
4 feet wide. Okay. And I know that the city council had recently adopted some like policies as far as regulating use and activities here in the pump track. Another aerial view of the proposed track layout. And then just a little more detailed view showing some of the grades in this location. Planning staff has recommended approval. Again, we've included these standards for your reference in making a motion. And then, like I said, Heidi will be able to answer any of your questions about the details of the proposal. I'll just go back to some of these images. Any questions for staff?
I think the only question I had, which we talked about in the work meeting, but should be voiced in here, is how we're looking at parking in this area for this.
Chris, this is Jonathan Bowers from the engineering department. Heidi and I are somewhat tag team in the presentation on this, and like you mentioned, this was brought up in the work meeting. We do anticipate a draw for people to park here. We will provide parking along the frontage, right along the the frontage of this lot. However, we don't believe it will suffice. When I say this lot, I'm talking about Big Bend Park, which is just a bit further east of the pump track. So we anticipate providing some parking there, and we think it's probably going to be about 4 stalls or so, 4 or 5. We anticipate an additional need. And so what we've been looking at is there is potential for parking along the shoulder. Right now, it is actually restricted parking along Mustang Trailway. However, we're going to take a look at temporarily providing parking along Mustang Trailway for a certain restricted time frame. While in the meantime, further to the west, there is a large park that is anticipated to be constructed that will include additional parking, and obviously there will be a straight connection from an asphalt trail to this location. Also, on the other side on the east side of Anthem Park, the Parks Department has started just looking at the potential of using this open space that is just north of Midas Creek and just east of Anthem. That has not yet been approved. It's just something we've started looking at. So there's additional parking over there that in the future may be able to accommodate this as well. And again, that has a direct asphalt trail connection to this location, would not need to cross the road to get there. So we do anticipate the drop in need for parking, but temporarily we need to combine the efforts of the frontage on Big Bend Park and Mustang Trailway, like at least along the shoulder for restricted time frames.
And how many, I guess if you were to give a number, how many parking stalls roughly or cars could that park, you think, at any given time? I'm not going to hold you to it exact, but...
That's a good question. And to be honest, this is something that we have not quantified to date, but I would anticipate somewhere around that 30 to 40 if I'm not being quoted today.
Okay.
Maybe potentially a little less. We're not 100% sure what's needed.
Yeah.
We need to get into that. We need a traffic impact study. We're getting into looking at comparable projects. So anyway, so that's something that we need to circle back and figure out.
Okay. That was my only question. Are there any other questions from the Planning Commission?
So my only concern is I don't think we never would allow a developer to put in a park. I think it's a great project. I totally think, but I'm not comfortable approving it until we know what the parking really is going to look like. That's what we require on developers. I think it's kind of, in my opinion, it would be irresponsible of us to hold other people accountable if we don't do that now.
The only exception that I have on this is oftentimes when we put pocket parks in, there is no parking. It's just street side. And that's why I'm looking at it a little bit differently.
But this is bigger than a pocket park. This is a unique feature we don't have anywhere else.
Yeah, it's like what did you say, 40 foot by 70 foot is about the dimensions of it? Is that correct? I'm trying to remember what was said earlier.
Yeah, that's about right.
And so it's not a huge park. It accommodates maybe 30 or 40 people on the track at one time with it being a single track.
You just spent 30 minutes talking about a trailhead and worrying about parking. So in my opinion,
yeah.
Something that's brand new, and I've seen these next to skate parks, and now you're usually pretty dang full.
Okay.
Yeah. I worry. I treat it as not a pocket park. I treat it as more of an amenity like a splash park. And we're putting it in the middle of a subdivision that we don't even have overlaid on the drawing we're looking at.
Yeah, I agree with you, Adam.
So
yeah, I have to agree too.
I wish maybe the staff has looked at it all, but for me, if I'm trying to hold our city at the same level of what we're holding a developer, we would not be doing. We would have asked them to try and remove this from the agenda because there's not anything to show us. I mean, other than the circles, I get it, totally get it, and I get where you're showing to put it. But I worry if we start doing this for ourselves. I mean, we've done this for our water department before. I just don't think it's fair that we hold ourselves to a different standard. If anything, we should be the other extreme. Like, I appreciate what you did in the first presentation, showing the parking and everything. But that's just me.
Well, no, I kind of agree. I mean, a lot of people, where I would park would be Mustang Trailway, right? Because it's the closest place to park to this amenity. So that.
But the concern there is if you remove the signs, now you have a school parking problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
And so
exactly.
I think there's a lot going on right here that what could cause us consternation in the future.
Agree. So are you ready to make a motion?
Well,
I'm not going to question.
I have a question. I mean, how many I don't know. It's kind of hard because it's like how many people can it accommodate? It's 4 feet wide. It's not that big, but I'm not saying 50 kids can be there waiting to ride it, which I think will be the case. So
So Brody, I was just out looking at their website and following, that AmericanRamCompany.com, and
yeah, exactly.
they show that, and I don't think you want to have it wider than for more than one person. I think from a safety standpoint, I don't think you want cyclists passing each other and whatnot here. I think you want single file on these tracks from a safety perspective. So that's my feeling. I don't want it wider. I think it's perfect with the width that you have. Yeah, it may be busy and may have a lot of traffic out there, but you're still only going to be going single file. I just think it's safer to have the single file on there.
Yeah, I agree there. I just wish it was bigger, like the longer.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess we're stuck with tight. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I just Googled the West Valley one, and the pictures show that thing pretty dang full. People. So I don't know. I am ready to make a motion if everybody else is, but I think we continue it until we decide what really is going on with parking and showing what's going on. So I can turn that into a motion by saying I move to continue this item without date until parking is addressed.
And I will second that.
Motion by Adam, a second by Andy. We'll call for a vote. Andrea?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
And Andy?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And so we'll move on to item 3.3, which is a request for a conditional use amendment to the approved building elevations for Herriman Corners Lot 7. And we'll turn to city staff, and then we'll turn to our very patient friend, Dave Murdoch, after that.
I'm still here.
All right, Michael.
Okay, the address of this site is 133 8 South Rosecrest Road, C2 commercial zone. Property is 1.18 acres. This is an existing building that the Planning Commission had previously approved. But during the process of doing a tenant finish for a future dry cleaner, Tide, which is a franchise operation, that company requires the operator to install an awning for customers to pull up. A very typical feature, of course, for a dry cleaner to have that for customer service. So this little aerial photograph is just trying to show hatching in where approximately that drive-through awning would be located. And then the site plan, again, you can see there's an island that is controlling how cars would access the drive-through awning. So staff did not have any concerns as far as the site circulation or the awning's impact on the overall project. This is the building elevations. You can see the awning columns are proposed to have a portion of some stone wrapped around the steel column, and also some fascia to kind of trim out the awning itself. Now, we mentioned that this was actually part of a tenant finish. The awning itself, or the canopy, was not actually on a set of plans. Our applicant was in the process of installing this feature when we spoke with him and instructed him that he needed to return back to the Planning Commission and have an amended approval for the project. So in the meantime, he has removed this structure and is waiting for the Planning Commission decision. Again, this was not complete. It was just in the process of being constructed. So he was able to quickly remove it and continue working on finishing the interior of the space. So again, the planning staff has reviewed it and then has recommended approval of this project for Commission's consideration tonight.
All right, we'll turn the time to the applicant with any additional comments.
This is Dave Murdoch with North Point Construction. As you can see there, And I've got a little GoToWebinar right where you're showing the site on your elevation, so I can't see what you're seeing. I can see everything else, but I can't see that. I can see the west elevation, but not the east elevation. But we will be putting a fascia on the east and on the west side, which would be approximately 18 by 4 feet. There'll be a fascia design on there with a cornice, so that'll look nice. And then we will be bringing stone up along and you can see the dimension on there. Will be a significant amount of the steel column will be covered with a stone, which will match the building. The stucco that we use on the fascia will also match the color of the building.
Thank you, Dave. And I think, I can't see it very well. Maybe you guys can see it better, but it looks like 10 feet is going to be the height of the pillar.
I can't. Yeah, I'd have to go.
Chris, I'm looking at it. I zoomed in. You got 10 feet to the top.
Okay. So it'll be a 10-feet pillar, and then it'll narrow down. And I think we have a pretty good idea how it's going to look with that previous picture, so with the dimensions. So are there any questions for the applicant or city staff from the Planning Commission before?
When are we going to get the wall across the residential area? When does that come in? Because that whole area is almost built, and there still is a large section of commercial wall that's not along the retention area.
On the west side of the property, is that right, Adam?
Yeah, I don't live down there or anything, but I've seen those people are pretty dang close to commercial, and I thought we had a requirement that a 6-foot precast is supposed to be around all residential areas.
So a good portion of that was tied to, I believe, Ace Hardware. They currently have a bond in place for completing some private improvements on that project. And then I believe there's a small corner of that wall that's associated with this particular building that they will need to install. I know there's been some question about revisiting that with the Planning Commission, but the developer has not submitted that request formally at this point in time. Anyway, so that's what's happening on that wall.
All right, thank you, Michael. Are there additional questions on the amendment to the approved building elevations for Harriman Corners Lot 7, or are we ready to make a motion? I'll turn to the Planning Commission for a motion.
Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion for item, let's see, 3.3, request for conditional use amendment. I move to approve this item.
A motion by Brody.
I'll second.
A second by Joy, right?
Yes.
I have a tough time getting everybody's voice without seeing you guys. And so we'll call for a vote. Andy?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
And Andrea?
Yes.
All right, thank you guys. We'll now move on to item 3.4, which is a plot amendment for Fort Harriman Cove, Phase 3.
This is Dave Murdoch. Am I good to?
You're good to go. We're done, Dave. You got approved. You're done. You can work with the city on what you need to now.
Great. Hey, thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Now we'll move on to item 3.4, which is a plot amendment for Fort Harriman Cove, Phase 3, Lot 310 and 311, and we'll turn to city staff.
Okay. Commissioner, recall we had a discussion about an earlier plan that included a future or potential trail access. The council has agreed to vacate that trail access, which is now allowing some property lines to be shifted in this particular subdivision. And so this request now is to essentially make that amendment. So let me just show a few images on this project. As far as the process is concerned, because this is a plat amendment and no new lots are being created, we are not required to hold a neighborhood meeting on this type of project. And we also don't have a public hearing because the same owner owns both lots. So this is the original subdivision plat as it was recorded. And then the next image, which I think was also included in your packet. Oh, you can see that a little bit better detail. This is the proposed plat amendment, just involving those two particular lots. Again, this is, go ahead. This has been reviewed and is recommended for approval.
So in the case of a vacated lot, I thought normally it had to go out for auction and all kinds of stuff, like it gets bid on surplus property. How did it just go to these people?
In this case, because it's residential, it just goes equally to both lots, each half. Yeah.
That's correct. This is Chase. That's the correct procedure in this case.
Okay, I'm good.
All right. If the applicant's here and they have anything else to add to this.
This is Jared Ford with Ensign Engineering. I'm here, but I don't think there's anything to add. Michael's described it pretty well, so I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. But
All right, then we'll turn to the Planning Commission for additional questions or a motion.
I move to approve this item.
I'll second.
So Adam, that was you, correct, Adam? On
Yes,
the
that was
motion? Adam with the motion and Andy on the second. And we'll call for a vote. Andy?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Heather?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
Brody?
Yes.
And Andrea?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. So that was approved. And then item 4, which is any chair and commission comments. Is there any additional comments from the Planning Commission?
I just have a comment. I think I've made it a couple times. Just as for public safety, there's no temporary fence around the city building where they're putting where Edge Homes and they're doing commercial. I know there's a lot of families and residential next to where they're putting up commercial, and it just seems odd that there's not a temporary fence between established residential and that commercial site going up.
We did bring this up last time, Michael. Was there an update on that?
I apologize. I did not remember that comment, Brody, and I don't know if that has been brought up to the attention of Edge Homes, but I'll follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other items from the Planning Commission?
I have a small one. I still think we just need maybe the planning department to address what's going to happen with that rock. I didn't want to tie it to the motion because I didn't think it made sense, but I do think we might want to address what's going to happen up there.
I think you're going to see a request for reconsideration, and anyway, we've been pushing it as well. We've been reminding the developer that that's the requirement. Yeah. I had a question for the commission. Last time we had some problems with images. It's hard for me to gauge. I'm looking at all of our images tonight on a small laptop. But did we have any problems with the quality of the materials or the quality of the images in this packet? I tried to encourage Bryn to make sure to use the best images we had available.
No, I thought they were great. I could, if I need more detail, I could zoom in on my computer from what you had on your. So no, for me it was great.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely had some problems in that last meeting.
No, I think we're okay. And if there's no other comments, our future meetings are Wednesday, July 29th, 2020 will be a joint Planning Commission City Council meeting. Thursday, August 6th, 2020 will be Planning Commission meeting. And then Wednesday, August 12th, 2020, a City Council meeting. Michael, do you know if the July 29th we plan on still having that, and if we're going to do it
Yes.
electronically like
Yeah,
this?
we've been lining up. Oh, we're going to do an electronic meeting, and we've been lining up agenda items for that. So definitely plan on it.
Okay, and then maybe you guys can give me further detail if it's very similar to this one, if I need to be here or how that's going to work.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And then we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Thank you all.
What'd you say?